Namaste everyone. Welcome to the yet another episode of Pilot Talks.
Pilot Ki Baat.
In this episode, we have a very special personality. He has over 15 years of sailing experience, 25 years of pilotage experience. He's also been a harbor master, and now he is the deputy conservator of a major port, Cochin. Now, what is a deputy conservator? He is responsible to the deputy chairman, the board for efficient functioning of the marine department. He is overall in charge of the department. He is also a port facility security officer for that port. Now, Captain Joseph Alapath has piloted all the luxury cruise ships of Cunard Lines, which includes Queen Mary II, Queen Mary, Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth II, Queen Mary II, Queen Victoria, and Queen Elizabeth. He has also piloted all the aircraft carriers of Indian Navy, including the latest one under commissioning. He has also been involved in the concept of commissioning a container terminal, an LNG terminal, and an SPM in the port of Cochin. Trust me, we were really longing for a really long time to get him on this show. Captain Gajanan sir, what are your views on this, our great esteemed personality, Captain Joseph Alapath?
Association with AMPA or Captain Joseph Alapath goes a little long back. When we formed AMPA in November 2019, one of the first calls I got, do you know Captain Alapath? I said no. So somebody introduced me to him. And of course, he happened to be a batchmate of, one of my chief officers when I was sailing. So, of course, it started with that. And I realized one thing instantly after talking to him. I also met him in a social circle. I also met him for one function. And I realized that he's a very friendly person, number one. Despite having all the accolades that he has done in Cochin Port, from commissioning terminals, bringing in those big ships, those famous cruise ships, and, those huge car carriers and, the Indian Navy ships, aircraft carriers and all that. He was a very down-to-earth guy. One thing I found in him was he was a no-nonsense guy. And he would give his opinion to the fact. And that one thing I liked about him. And this show, says Pilot Ki Baat, is, based on sharing knowledge, based on sharing, the personality, experiences and thoughts. I had immediately thought that he's the right person for this show. He was busy all this time. So we also had a long list of guests waiting. And as this show is coming to glamour, I'm getting every week one request from the international national pilot that they want to be on this show and share their thoughts. That is the success, I would call, of AMPA and Vijay, personally yours, because, you've been involved in this show from day one. And it's really great to have you around for this show, because it not only makes you more aspiring about pilot, but it makes you aware about the job that the pilots do in the port happens. So in your current position as voyage manager, you would also definitely be benefited by these talks and your learnings. So let's welcome Captain Joseph Alapath without any further ado. And for our viewers, he's a great man, great personality, ardent supporter of AMPA, and he's also a creator, writer of pilot training program for AMPA. Thank you. Captain Alapath, welcome to you.
Thank you, sir. Let's welcome Captain Joseph Alapath on board. And thank you for your kind words. So I just started my show journey and I realized that it's very challenging, but yet I am doing my best to be associated with AMPA and do this great talk show that we started way back in March. And I realized that you have been in the show job for a really, really long time. And looking at your schedule, I'm really happy, and it's very inspiring that you still find time and that energy which is needed to be a part of this show, co-host with me, and get to speak to so many esteemed guests. And I would say that, a true mentor, I would say. I'm really happy and lucky that I found you. Thank you so much, sir.
All right, pleasure is all mine. Socially, we have to get involved. To bring the maritime fraternity up, we need to get involved everywhere. So I'm trying my level best. Really struggling these days with my professional job also, but it's good. It's good to be involved with youngsters like you, and I also become younger when I do that.
Yes, yep. Sir. And your energy in Samyukta event was overwhelming and superb. Okay, sir, let's not
Right.
wait. Captain Joseph Alapad must be waiting. Let's get him on board.
Yeah.
A very warm good morning to Captain Joseph Alapad. Welcome to the show, Pilot Talks, Pilot Ki Baat.
Extremely happy to host Captain Joseph Alapad. I mean, he's a very eminent personality in India today. Why do I say eminent? Because he has done so many things in his life, and as he would agree with me, and as anybody else will agree with me that they all do it in subtly, without being highlighted, without being I mean these are the guys Vijay. I mean, DC, Deputy Conservator in Port, is literally involved from, in some cases, commissioning the port, commissioning the terminals, berths, and actually running it. So he's basically a conservationalist, of conservation of the port is a main job description. But Captain Alapad is also a navigator, and that too very highly passionate, ship handler at heart. So let's welcome Captain Joseph Alapad. And he's also a great supporter of AMPAM. He's been there. He has done a lot of advisory things for us, from pilot training syllabuses to even pilot journal. And we are waiting for him to retire from his seat so we can grab him and get him more involved in the AMPA social activities, because a person like him will definitely bring a lot of value to the organizations like this, Pan India. So Captain Alapad, thank you very much. Welcome to this show, and we wholeheartedly welcome you. Let me ask you a first question before Vijay gets warmed up, because he doesn't, I mean, he's new on the show with you as such. So, Captain Alapad, I was also listening to you other day onto the, discussions with the, company of Basta Marines, also on the another organization in Chennai regarding the Suez Canal crisis and all that. And that time I heard you, and I heard a lot about, that you spoke, which was literally nobody else speaks. Though things were very simple, and things were like, of as if we heard them earlier. But the way you are telling them and the way you are explaining them in that webinar was extremely, extremely joyful and very happy to listen. So I recorded that entire part and circulated to all pilots also. So my first question is that, would you, in the same manner of your, interesting storytelling, describe your journey of entering into the port, trying to aspiring to be pilot, and then climbing up to the hot seat of being a deputy conservator, the challenges, what it meant to you, and how did you accomplish it? Thank you.
Right, thank you. And first of all, thank you very much for having me. It's been it's not very often that a pilot gets to say his baat, so I'm very happy to be able to say my two bits. As coming to the question that you asked, basically this was an accident, and I think sometimes the best things in life happen by accident. I was sailing and there was no interest in quitting as such. Of course, these things always cross your mind, but I had no plans. Then I was in a ship when I used to go to the Great Lakes quite often, and there was a pilot who used to come, Canadian, to Montreal. He used to come on my ship a couple of times, and he kind of told me once that this was the best job in the world. And I found it very strange, because no one, even if you have the best job in the world, nobody actually admits it. Oh, that is better, or something else is bad, or something like that. But this guy was very clear. I got the best job in the world. And that kind of stuck in my mind. Okay, pilotage is such a good job, is it? Well, they get very well paid over there, and they work to rest hours is fantastic. And as a river pilot, you just take trips from A to B or B to C, and there's no docking or undocking involved. So maybe he did have the best job in the world. Little later in that very same ship, I had a personal crisis when my father passed away, and I had to kind of quit and leave and come home. It took a week to get me relieved from New Orleans. But when I reached home and I was heading home in Bombay Airport, I bought a newspaper, and I kind of just opened it just to keep my mind occupied. Jet lagged and pressurized as I was, I saw an advertisement that said Cochin Port requires pilots. I thought that was amazing timing, and a newspaper in Bombay Airport. And I told my wife next to me, and I said, maybe God's speaking to me through an advertisement. You never know. He speaks to you in many ways. So maybe that was it. So I came home, and after settling all the things at home, I just put in an application to Cochin Port, and I got selected. And the rest is here. We said initially I planned to stay here no more than 2 years. I told my wife, and that's it. I'm going to get back to sea. And she said, okay, let's try it for 2 years. And we did. And now it's 26 years. And no regrets, really. So that's the story. And as far as getting from there to DC's post, believe me, Captain, it's almost like it happens by default. If you stay in the government sector long enough, you get promoted. I don't mean that in any negative way. I just meant that, I was the junior most pilot of about 11 pilots when I joined. Within a couple of years, almost 8 of them had left. And very soon I found myself as the second senior most pilot in Cochin Port. I was maybe 2 years into the job, and also the junior most, because we had only 2 pilots. That was tremendous, very, very funny situation. And we had to call all our retired pilots to come and help us out. And those poor guys who were like 60 plus were climbing ladders for us. And we somehow managed that path. And now we're back to about 11. But I'm just saying that I just stuck on long enough and it happened. Well, I'm not saying, I'm not trying to take away that there was a lot of hard work involved, because when we were 2 pilots, I would leave home on Monday and come back on Wednesday, things like that, working all the time. But no regrets. I enjoyed hard work, and ship handling is something I absolutely, absolutely love.
Absolutely great, sir. I mean, it is, I mean, I would say, as you rightly said, the God spoke to you through advertisement while you're coming back from a ship. And, as they say, if you wish something with a pure mind and heart, the entire natural, scenario comes to help you out. And in this case, they are helping Cochin Port for a very long time, for a long term, having you on board and, making you be there. I mean, somebody who's committed. Today's scenario in the world is, of course, in job situation also is very difficult. Nobody stays that long, even in government job for a long time, because government jobs also are very highly pressurized, even normal jobs. Pilot job is, of course, I mean, when we started AMPA, of course, it was a dream to have a, organization pan India and represent them, look at the reforms. I had a lot of big dreams of, recruitment of pilots and retirement of pilots. So recruitment and retirement, when I met Minister for the first time in November 2019, I was bragging about, I want to bring reforms from recruitment to retirement and this kind of thing. I showed you a presentation of 25 slides in Ministry of Shipping office. But thereafter, when I really came down to the level of talking to the Indian pilots, I came to know, oh my God, I mean, there is something which is very dangerous. A pilot may not be alive climbing those ladders and climbing down those ladders, What about that? So pilot ladder safety became a very big issue for us. So, I mean, of course, as I said, the pilot doesn't get highlighted. Very important part of the port economy. And as you rightly said, although promotions may come by the way of your number of years into the rank, but a lot of enormous hard work. I mean, enormous hard work is put in by pilots at off hours. Even not only pilot, even the entire family, kind of marries to that kind of job of very uncertain, ship schedules and berthings and unberthings. Some port may have nighttime, no berthing, but emergencies don't knock the door before telling you. So those kind of emergencies you must have handled plenty, and the entire family must have supported you. I would let Mr. Vijay, Captain Vijay, ask you a question, because he's an aspiring pilot as well. And he's also a great supporter of AMPA. He's been involved with the pilot key talks. It is his idea. And just the quest of wanting to know more and pick up the intelligent brains and people who have been there, done that kind of stuff. So Vijay, next question is yours, Captain Malapad.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's a privilege listening from a great person with such a vast experience that he has. In your bio, I read that you have been you have piloted the luxury cruise ships, Queen Mary and Queen Victoria, Queen Elizabeth, and also the aircraft carriers. Just a personal question: if you have any very interesting story or any interesting incident that you would like to share for our viewers.
Well, in all these things, it's a little a little bit of trial and a little bit of luck also that goes into it, apart from a lot of planning. So Queen Mary's call was quite exciting, because it was the first call of the vessel, and she had just been built. This was, I think, in 2007. and she was the grandest ship on the waters, and she was 350 meters long or so. And up till then, the biggest ship we handled was 250 meters, so it was a bit of a leap of faith. But I would tell you a story that when Queen Mary was being built, we were approached by Cunard Lines as to would we be able to accept her. And I was, the manager marine at that time, which was like an assistant harbor master. And I was told by DC to kind of just see and reply to them. So I did all these calculations, channel design, this, that, and I found that, yes, we could handle her considering her propulsion that time was quite revolutionary, the Acipods. And she had all those bow thrusters and everything. So we said, yes, I think we could. The only challenge was the turning circle, which was 500 meters long, and the ship was 350 meters long. So we need to do it in slack tide and preferably daytime because we won't want to try it in the night. So these were the conditions we put, and we kind of went to the DC with a reply to Cunard. And he said, hey, Joe, forget it. They're never going to come here. You just say we can accept them and let's see what happens. So I did. And as luck would have it, when she actually got built and came, I was then the harbor master. So I had to kind of put my foot into it and kind of, do it. But that said, they were very supportive. Cunard Lines, they came for discussion and we discussed the issues and I was with them in the discussion. And we told them these are the things we were worried about. We'd rather that you come in daytime one day, we'll turn you around, put you alongside, and the next high water, next day is high water, daytime. We'll do both the sailing on daytime because most cruise ships stay here from morning till evening only. But for the first call of the Queen Mary, they came and stayed overnight. And we had a tanker at the COT berth, which is opposite where the ship was going to, part of the turning circle actually. So we said, oh my God, once you have a ship there, we have that much less room. So then we kind of had to take that tanker, they were not very happy about it, out to Anchorage, bring in the Queen Mary, turn around and berth her, and then bring the tanker back. Which lost her a few hours, and they were not very happy about. But we didn't want to take a chance. You can't take a chance with a ship like this, and we were happy that it went off very smoothly, and as it happened, and it was one hell of a sight. That imposing ship. It was the talk of the town. There were people coming out in boats to the waterfront to see the ship, and even when we sailed out, there were people lined up all along the waterfront on her way out. And the captain was so impressed. He said, I feel like a film star. I've never seen this kind of a crowd to see a ship, and they get a good welcomes in all the countries. They go to mainly by way of boats accompanying them. But this was people lined up on both sides of the waterfront all along the route going out. And it was quite a sight to see. And he was very pleased. And we gave them a few whistles to appreciate what they were doing. But that was the experience from Queen Mary too. As far as the aircraft carriers go, it's a different ballgame altogether. They are not that long or that deep, but given their unwieldy shape with the aircraft deck and everything, it is a challenge because it's almost like navigating from one bridge wing, because the bridges are generally located on the starboard side of the ship. So the perspective all changes when you navigate from the sides, especially in channels. But again, you can't take chances with these big ships. So there's a lot of planning that goes into it. A lot of discussions with the commanding officer and the navigating officers and our team, and we make sure that where the tugs are to be deployed, tugs can't push everywhere because of a shape. Which tugs can be used? Generally, the bow pushing tugs can't be used. Stern pushing tugs can be used because they have to go underneath the flight deck sometimes. So we get the tug masters also involved in the discussion. We have a lot of work planning to do. And if you do all that right, and of course we pick the perfect tide because nature is most important to it. You have to give it due respect. And with all that, we're fortunate so far to have done all these movements without any incident. And the more challenging movement is usually taking her from the berth to the dry dock. And that is done as a cold move. And that is quite a challenge because it's a distance of about half a mile or 0.6 cables from her berth to the dry dock. But as a cold move, you're completely dependent on how well your tug respond to your orders, how well they execute them. And like I said, with these kind of ships, you just can't take any risks. So we're very happy that we've been able to do it. And I'm very happy that the next generation, I was handling these aircraft carriers for a very long time, from Virat all the way up till Vikrant, with Vikramaditya in between. And I'm very happy to note that we have crew pilots down below the line who are now handling these ships while I sit behind the desk.
Wow, so wow. Such fabulous experience that you shared. As a master, we have this what you call passion for ship handling, And this is experience that is, we always will keep it with us. But listening about Queen Elizabeth and your experiences handling the cruise ships, which we as a seafarer, we have no experiences apart from just looking them from our own bridge wings and the aircraft carriers. Now I can see why Captain Gajanan sir was very keen on getting you on this show to, so that we and many other audiences can listen to your experience. Now coming back to IAMPA sir, like we know that IAMPA is very much concerned about the pilot safety and security, and we know that safety is everyone's responsibility. So, but this safety aspects, it gets challenged every time whenever the pilot boards. I being a master mariner, we have seen that we rig the pilot ladder. Of course, good companies, substandard companies, good seamanship, bad seamanship. It's a very dynamic process. So I see many Facebook pages we have wherein we see the day-to-day pictures being shared, and when we as a seafarer, as a master, we see that these practices are still going on. The bad pilot ladders are still being rigged. So what are your thoughts on the pilot ladders unsafe practices?
Well, I'm very glad that we have IAMPA that is driving this subject. It is a perennial subject, unfortunately. It doesn't seem to go away, unfortunately, and it needs continuous monitoring. So I can recall a time when I was a cadet and we were calling Cochin for the first time, and I was very excited because it was in a way my home port, though my parents weren't there. That said, I was woken up an hour earlier by the chief officer and told to go and wash the pilot ladder with fresh water because there were some salt deposits on it. And I was told that, I was pretty upset being woken up 1 hour earlier than always. And I kind of said, what do we mean salt? The chief officer said, Cochin pilots are very particular. If they see salt on the ropes, they won't board. And I was thinking to myself, my God, these guys must be some big, lords who kind of bossing, everybody else. But anyway, I had to go into my job as a good cadet. And sure enough, but I realized what we were doing was very important, that we were giving due importance to rigging and the pilot ladder, the condition of the pilot ladder for the pilot to board safely. It's really sad because this is a safety item. I'm sure none of us as sailors and masters, we would ever take any chances with our life-saving appliances. This is a life-saving appliance. The life that matters is only the pilot, unfortunately, and not the whole crew. So I think this story should begin and end on the ship. It has to be with MTIs, trainings of seafarers to drum into them the importance of this thing. Most people don't realize that how many cargo ships we see where the pilot ladder is left on deck, and you discharge or coal or whatever you load, and all that cargo is piled up on the ladder, and then they just put it down for the pilot. I would not even ask anybody to go down that ladder, leave alone a pilot, a senior mariner. So I think we need to take that into board on board. I think we need to tackle it at the training level of seafarers because they are the ones who rig it. And as a pilot, you develop a kind of a instinct of looking up ladders and guessing their condition. It is almost second nature to you. Then boarding, I always take a step and put my weight on the first step for a while before I take the second step. These are things that you develop, a kind of a safety mechanism because it's your life in the end. And you by the time you can make out that the ladder is okay. And then third is, I think, pilot safety itself. As in, there are many ports where the pilots have to buy their own life jackets, and that's I think how low can we go? Something that costs $5,000, $6,000 and can save a life. I think that's really sad, and I think we need to bring this awareness both sides. So yes, ships for rigging the ladder and maintaining it properly, and pilots also to ensure that their safety equipment and things are in good order. And the biggest learning in pilots is peer-to-peer. The senior pilot always telling the junior about boarding, and the finer things which he should then take on board and follow very rigorously. And he will develop some of his own, stunts as he goes along, as you say. Because in the end of the day, you have to get yourself on board without falling in the water, and God forbid anything worse than that. So yes, pilot ladder safety, it's a long haul, but unless you keep shouting it out from the rooftops continuously, it's not going to get heard. But I'm very happy to say it is getting heard now. It has become a talking point. And as long as that is continued, I think we are on the right track.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your insights. And yes, you touched upon training. IMPA is associated with lots of institutes wherein we train the cadets, because they are the start of, from cadets they'll become masters. So it's good to train the roots of the seafaring community. And also, I would say that pilot ladder is being now touched upon. Also in these inspections, we have the SIRE and also the RightShip inspections. I have seen the inspections few years back, and now I see the SIRE inspectors are also concerned about the pilot ladder. And for that reason, it's a good thing in a way. So the companies have to ensure that the pilot ladder is in a good condition, maintained properly, and the records are there. Earlier, this was not happening with the SIRE inspectors and the CDI inspectors. They were just concerned about the ship. But now I see during the pre-SIRE or pre-CDI inspection, if we find that this ladder is not maintained properly and we report it to the company, we have to get the new ladder in place. And if the SIRE or CDI gives a remark, there's no other choice. You to close the remark, you need to have a good ladder. So I'm really happy that this pilot ladder issue is being stressed upon more importantly. And Captain sir, up to you now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Captain Joseph, you have said, many things in that last answer of yours, and it was really good to hear that, you recognizing efforts of AMPA, number one. Number two, when we started this, we realized that it is not only with the ship staff. I mean, it is not only competence, it is also awareness. So we decided to do MTIs, and MTIs also were not aware. I mean, the irony of the whole situation is that, we don't have even apart from SOLAS Regulation 5, Chapter 5, Regulation 23, nothing is there in the syllabus about pilot ladder, where the life hangs on it. And there have been steadily 2-3 accidents, fatal accidents, where pilots have lost lives in the world. It is happening every year now. And so we approached DG Shipping first, and of course, DG Shipping had been very kind enough to give us the room to discuss, and said, yes, we will do the launching of focus inspection on all ships, because the statistics showed that 60% of pilot ladder of the ships coming to India are non-compliant. That means the pilot life, 60% potential of having it, in danger of, either it is wrongly rigging or incompetent rigging or unaware rigging or a wrong pilot ladder, bad pilot ladder, whatever it is. And one of the very important things you mentioned about washing of the pilot ladder, that was only an idea when I was kid. Also, I was told to wash life buoys and wash pilot ladders and things like that, because when you wash them, it's like washing your car. When you wash your car by your hands, you would know even a smallest scratch and you would be worried about it. And that goes in the subconscious mind when you drive the car. Already scratches are there. Today's people don't even touch pilot ladder, so they're not aware what's wrong with the pilot. My wooden strip is cracked, or choke has become loose, or the rope has become brittle. So very, very, very rightly said by you. And I have of course, this kind of training regimes are needed. Thank you very much for that answer, and absolutely great. I think we'll cut here the first part, Vijay. And he has spoken well on all three aspects. So you can cut here. We can rejoin, and we'll ask you about the pilot training, because he spoke something about peer-to-peer learning. So that is very important. That is one of the good things. Okay.
So we will end the first part here. So I'll just.
So how many minutes do you have now?
8 minutes. So we'll thank him and we will end. So our ending.
So thanking baad mein karega, no problem.
No, you want to use that time for that. You're finishing this thing.
Okay. You are finishing. Thank you very much for inviting him.
So you can start, like you were continuing, so we can thank him.
Yeah. Okay. So absolutely great, Captain Joseph, and also was very enlightening to hear that part of your answer. Thank you very much for being on the show, and we would definitely need more time with you, because the story is not going to end, and we need to hear from you about pilot training and things like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And as usual, due to the time constraints, I did ask you one personal question, and that took some time. We do have some more questions about pilot training. And also, we would like to know about the role as a DC in short. So thank you so much. And looking forward to see you again for the next part. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I look forward to